Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the monastery, the open bar of the internet, the world's greatest shit show, and the place where we, the good brothers and sisters of this most holy of temples, seek enlightenment through the drunkest, craziest, and most batshit ways possible. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me, I have my good brother here in the temple, the man behind the Wanderer's Library, good brother Sig.
Good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing tonight?
It's actually warmed up. It's about 11 degrees.
Huh. That's brisk weather for you.
Mhm. Now that's before you factor in wind chill. So it still feels like it's in the negatives.
Fair.
Oh. In fact, let me see. Actually, no. The factoring in wind chill, it feels like 5 degrees.
Ah, that's streaking weather right there.
I'm not cosplaying as Archimedes again. Not after last time.
I'm not even gonna ask. Please do not elaborate.
I will simply say that I was not the one who did it. I was the one who had to deal with the aftermath.
Oh no.
No matter what my occupation is, I always seem to be the one cleaning up other people's messes.
Isn't that how it always is?
It's for that reason that I feel a certain kinship with a character like Malcolm Tucker in The Thick of It. You know, being
I haven't
being
been in my office in over.
Have you ever seen The Thick of It?
No, I don't think I have.
That was my first introduction to Peter Capaldi. He was playing a press officer for an unnamed party in the UK, and thus every time there was some sort of scandal that happened or some sort of public embarrassment, it was his job to clean up the mess or try to find a way to spin it.
Oh, goodness gravy.
And resulted in him absolutely hating everybody involved in the party.
That's what happens when your party does stupid shit.
And everyone else being kind of scared of him because you never know what could set him off.
Yep.
It wasn't like he was a hair trigger, it's just he's surrounded by incompetence. But I think one of the best lines was with one of his colleagues where he said, "You're like that coffee maker. From bean to cup, you fuck up."
I like that saying, and I'm gonna take it.
I'll have to share with you a compilation later. But we are back doing one of the many conversions that I've been doing. I've been doing a few of these with different developers and seeing how far some of the concepts within Legend Edition can be stretched. Usually I like doing these with the developer on hand, but in this situation that is not going to be possible for very obvious reasons. And I know one might say, why are you if you have that much of an issue with Fabula Ultima as you showcased in the 2 videos you did, why even do this? Well, for one, there are a few ideas that I feel like lifting from Fabula Ultima. And 2, if people are going to call my game Fabula Ultima at home, I think I'm within my rights to examine that. And 3, I said I was going to do it. When I interviewed Rooster a long time ago, I said I was going to do some degree of cross-conversion. So don't get mad at me for actually following through on my promises. But obviously, Fabula Ultima is a game that I've covered in the past, and while it's gotten a lot of praise, I was not among them. When I did my initial review, I gave it the grade of caution, which caution is my second lowest grade. And I think so did I explain to you how I grade games? Like what the metric is?
I don't think you have, although I've heard you use your grading scale on several of the valleys we've done together.
So, years ago, I dropped the original numeric scoring that I was doing for the first few years of the channel, and instead went with a tier-based approach that was loosely inspired by Chuck Sonnenberg, aka SF Debris. It has really, really good Star Trek reviews, and reviews of various science fiction works. He's a pretty cool guy. But instead of doing a numeric score, I shifted to a tier-based scoring system. Part of the reason I did that is there is all the varying problems that end up happening with numeric scoring. Like how you would think 5 is the average, but in reality 7 is. As well as a lack of consistent parameters as to what gets what number and what the differences between individual incremental numbers are.
Mm-hmm.
So instead I went with a tier-based approach because that can be a little bit more flexible. And one can fall into that tier for any number of reasons. It's significantly more broad. This tier system is based less on how good or bad a game is and instead on how willing I am to recommend it to people. The more asterisk I have to put on that recommendation, the lower on the tier system that game gets.
And I remember watching your first video on it because I watched those videos before we did this. Your initial was playable, and then you dipped it down to caution because of all the crap I'm sure we'll get into with this.
Yeah. Now, a big reason I said playable is because when it comes to the core mechanics, it's using the same 2 dice setup that Ryutama does, and I like Ryutama.
Mm-hmm.
As well as games like Overarms and Gimmick Zero also use it, which I've covered them on this channel as well. And to a certain extent, Espers, although it's using a deck of playing cards as well. But from top to bottom, the tier system works like this. Strongly recommended are the games that I can easily recommend to just about anybody with very little, if no, caveats. You know, these are the put this in your library kind of right goddamn now kind of entries. Below that is recommended. These are the ones that are good, but there's just 1 or 2 things that are holding it back from being great. Below that is playable. It works, but you might have to do some house ruling to make it fit your table. Or there's a few things you might have to work around. Caution is where you're going to have to do some extensive house ruling to make it work. But it does have a few things that make it worth working. And avoid is there is either no redeeming qualities from what I see, or you would have to do so much house ruling that it's not really worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I gave Fabula Ultima a score of playable at first and bumped it down to caution, largely because as I examined the world creation, I started to see bigger problems. And I will note, I was coming at Fabula Ultima from a different perspective than other people have. because I felt that a lot of people were looking at it from the idea that this was somehow the first to do tabletop meets console style RPG.
It wasn't.
Far from it. And there's quite a few entries that I have in my library that they're in that similar vein. The idea of what this is doing is not by any of the stretch of the imagination new to me. And when I have games, here's a few names that are in the library that are either actively being developed, recently released, or have been around for a while, both official and fan projects. 16-Bit Adventures, Anima Prime, Skies Above, Arma Fantasia, Endless Realms, Console, Challenge Dungeons, Beacon, Suikoden Festivus, Heartbeats in Perfect Sync, Reclaim the Wild, The Velvet Room, Retro Phase, Tales from Myriad, Blades of Ether, FPS Full Party Strike, Limit Breakers, Devil City Tokyo 2000X and Tokyo Conception in the Megaten family, Shining Force, Era Lost Legend,
Woo!
Etrian Odyssey, and Arise. The point is that this idea of a generic approach towards trying to do trying to do a console RPG in that form is not a new concept to me, and I was grading it in contrast with other ones that I had already seen, especially stuff like 16-Bit Adventures, which has been around for years, or Aegis, or even some of the ones that they cite that the game cites as inspiration. Samurai Knight says it's just a shitty knockoff of Sword World. I won't go that far, and Sword World 2.5 was brought up as a inspiration, but when it comes to the inspirations, how those inspirations are utilized is something I find kind of baffling. You know, things like 13th Age or D&D 4th Edition, which I don't see much DNA of either of them in this. Aegis is pretty light, so there's not a whole lot you can say on that. Anima Prime is more of a D6 pool system than anything else. Arianhad, which is a fear project, kind of shows that the idea of doing console RPG in tabletop form again isn't new.
No.
And obviously with Kamigakuri, I can easily see that the 2 die setup that the game has is very much channeling that. But it was the world creation section that I really started to have a problem. Where, and I said this at the time, I felt like the world creation was a little too reliant on the genre savviness of the table. I said a similar thing with Candela Obscura as well. And that's not me pulling it out of my ass. If anyone's that curious, they can go back and watch the videos I did on both, and they'll see that that's more or less what I said. And that is a bit of a relying on that kind of genre savviness to me is a bit of a problem. Especially when you're dealing with something as broad as a console-style RPG. And I distinctly recall that I'd also brought up, if your quote-unquote JRPG fantasy is something more akin to Etrian Odyssey or Wild Arms or Tales of, Could you do it with the system? Yeah, but but you're gonna have to do some extra work to make it, well, work. And just reskinning isn't an
Mhm.
answer. And as far as the Sword World comparison, honestly, I don't see it. If it has to do with how classes work, I'd say it has more in common with a Fear project than with Sword World, or with or with the way skills are used in some of the Japanese tabletop that we've covered. You know, things like Tokyo Nova or Magic Punk.
Mhm.
And I do know some folk really, really don't like um, don't like the clock system. Uh, Personally, instead of use, I think the problem with it is that when you know how much time you have, uh, the the tension that the clock system is supposed to have doesn't always manifest.
Yeah, and sometimes it can even completely dissipate.
Hmm. That being said, I will note a game that has a clock-like system that I really like is the solo rules for Cyberpunk Red, because in that instance, instead of a clock, you have a pool of d6s. And if I recall correctly, if one of them rolls a if you roll them and one of them rolls a 1, you reduce that pool by 1 and you keep going until you run out. So it ends up being a happy marriage between things like the usage die in the black hack and a clock system, because you're
Mhm.
not guaranteed about how much time you have. And that is a good way to create some degree of tension. But I do also remember bringing up that back in the early 2000s, there were a lot of anime TTRPGs that tried to treat anime as this big catch-all genre, when in reality it's a medium.
Mhm.
A lot of the games that tried that kind of thing didn't last, and that mindset eventually got phased out in favor of drawing upon more specific anime or more specific genres within anime. You know, for example, something like Magi Knights is very much drawing upon Maho Shoujo and Super Sentai, as well as the general vibe of 90s pop culture and 90s geek culture as well. Uh, the the mech RPGs that we've seen more recently, instead of trying to encompass all of mecha, are a little bit more specific. But of course, I'd be remiss when it comes to this game, and if I didn't bring up the fact that despite despite that claim of live out your JRPG fantasy, the core book skews towards Final Fantasy VI.
Yep.
And I know it would be very easy for someone to say, well, don't you skew towards Final Fantasy in general? With Legend Edition, I do very much skew towards capturing the soul of FF, but I'm not trying to overly favor one entry. That was never the plan. That was actually something I was trying not to do. that my predecessors had done. And I'm not trying to sit here to say that I'm so much better than what Rooster was doing, but more to provide contrast, especially if people are going to continue to compare Fabula Ultima to Legend Edition.
Mhm.
But obviously, when it comes to things like checks, there's nothing I'm going to be drawing from on on that front. Um,
Right.
when it comes to bonds, I feel like the concept of bonds is something that I could kind of you could kind of account for with I'd say with the knowledge system that we have.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Uh, although I think the tricky thing is the fact that there's almost this specificity of emotions when that kind of specificity is not really something I do personally. So to be honest, bonds is something I don't think I'd even want to do in Legend Edition, just be for a primary reason that I would rather have an individual study or whatnot be multi-purpose.
That and it's just another resource for a GM to track, and that's not something. I mean, It really depends on the game. If it's in the game and it's part of it, that's something I'd sort of be willing to do. But in this case, I don't see the point.
But assuming that it is something that is done, I think an individual bond should be a study.
Hmm. That could be an affiliation, like easily.
Oh, yeah, actually, affiliation makes more sense than studies.
Hmm.
And I think the when it comes to the emotions, instead of the pairing that that they have, I just think choose one of the six emotions and it's tied to that affiliation.
Right.
Uh, that and being able to take an affiliation more than once, just adding an additional emotion. Because I think you could, like for example, you could have both affectred and hatred for one.
Hmm.
Also, thank you for the bits, Isabel. Hope your night is going well as we go through this particular experiment. And Hydra says,
Woo!
"Heaven forbid, I do not want another 3-point X in terms of skill lists." Oh, I'm never doing that. I promise you I will never do that sort of skill list shenanigans. spawns may purchase more than once. The whole strength of emotion thing, I don't see a reason to do that. Mostly because I'm not entirely sure what the difference between say a 1 and a 2 would be. Yes, I'm very certain that there is a difference, but it's not one that I really see. Oh, thank you. But let's see, when it comes to conflict scenes, don't really need to revisit that. And when it comes to the actions, I think every action that's on the list we have an equivalent of. Let's see, attack, obviously. Equipment, it's just switching equipment. Guard, we already have that. Hinder, we have that. We don't have hinder as an action, but we've got equivalents.
Yeah, misdirection. That'd be more of a skill roll during battle, but
we have things like feint and trip.
That's true too.
Let's see, use inventory. That's just use item. Objective. That sort of thing we don't have, and that's because that is far too contextual. Let's see, spell. Well, we have our magic system. Study. Thing that it requires a open check to gain information about someone or something. That's way too contextual. Never mind the fact that these status effects in Fabula are a lot of it is just stepping around dice.
Yep.
But even the example goal clocks they showcase are a kind of thing that is very contextual to specific scenes. And that sort of specificity is not something I really do.
Yeah.
When it comes to battle superiority, there might be some potential things here. So it is essentially a shared resource. Where whenever you deal damage to enemies, if one of them is vulnerable to damage, you gain a superiority point. Isabel asks, "Do I like horror games?" I'm fine with them, but I'm not really a horror channel. But when you suffer damage, if you're immune or absorb that damage type, you get 1 superiority point. When you roll a critical success, you get 1. When you roll a fumble, the opposing team gets 1. You can spend a point to do an additional action once per turn. No team can have more than 5. I think the superiority point thing can be used, but if I'm being honest, I would rather use it as an escalation system rather than rather than, oh, you spend a point to get an extra action.
Funny enough, there seems to be an escalation system of sorts in this.
It's
It's
the
more it looks like more of a progression of the villain in the story.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit.
Oh
I'm
boy.
mostly referring to battle superiority on page 83 of the core book.
Okay. Going back.
Uh, and I appreciate the lurk, Isabel. Hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. So, as far as doing battle superiority, I don't think it should be a additional action.
Mm-mm.
I think you should be able to spend them to get boons.
That I can definitely see.
Which can be done
Or
for...
or hear me out. What if you could either do give boons or induce banes?
I can go with that.
Yeah. But of course, I mean, there's obviously going to be a limit to the amount you can induce.
Yeah. So, so for one, shared resource between players slash NPCs. Because an individual resource on this would be ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say... So they have it that a +1 is gained when you would suffer damage that you're either immune or absorbed. So, um, I'd say +1 when damage modification is triggered.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get hit with something that triggers damage reduction, you get 1 point. You get 1 superiority. If
Hmm.
you hit an opponent that has damage vulnerability, same thing. Obviously, since there's others, that's why I'm just using damage modification as a catch-all. So +1 on critical success. Um, I was thinking that of having 1 gained when you when you roll extra effort, but given how easy it's going to be for some characters to get it, in fact, that's a big part of their kit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that would I think instead I'll have it that you get +1 when an extra effort die rolls a 4. That is going to be at least a little harder to do. But you can spend any number that you have to get a number of bane, to either gain a number of boons or inflict a number of banes.
You should imagine being inflicted with 5 Banes in a single turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think Discord's being dumb.
Uh, how so?
I couldn't hear you for a moment.
Well, I didn't say I didn't say anything, but so here's what I have
Oh,
so
I
far.
was like,
Battle superiority is a shared resource between PC, one for PCs, one for NPCs. You get a +1 when damage modification is triggered, or a critical success or failure, or when an EED rolls a 4. I put in once per participant, so if you got 2 extra effort die and both of them roll 4s, you're not getting 2 points. So you can use them to get boons or inflict banes.
now for the conditions of this, would you start off with one, or would you just earn them during battle?
Both sides start at 0.
Sounds fair.
I'd say if you're dealing with, if when rolling initiative, if one side crits on initiative, they get 1.
Hmm.
I was
And
like,
what would you do? And what would you do, like in the event of a tie?
in the event of an initiative tie,
Yeah, like if they both happen to crit, which I know will rarely happen, but
they both get 1.
okay, that works.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Bring up Crisis. We already have that with SOS. The surrendering rules, that kind of thing would not fit.
No,
Um, and yeah, when it comes to the status effects, I'm not even going to bother with any of them because they're just reducing die size.
mm-hmm.
Which not all that interesting if I'm being honest. Oh,
Well, that and you have, and your system already has multiple ways which that can happen anyway.
mm-mm.
And they're usually so trivial that it, I mean, all it really does is just reduce damage for a round.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to Fabula points, this is very clearly the extra effort mechanic of the game.
Yeah.
And when it comes to what you'd use it on, whether it be the edit button for a story or doing a do-over, honestly, I'd need something a little spicier to add an addition to warrant adding an additional resource. Something
Right.
like battle superiority that can easily be represented by, poker chips. Poker chips or bennies or whatnot.
Yeah.
But
I might have to take that for a spin here in a few days. Be interesting to try out.
yeah. And at the same time, when it comes to the villain side of it with Ultima points, I think it's in a similar vein. Although I will note that a villain using an Ultima point to leave the scene or recover from all status effects and get 50 MP. The fact that they can just spend 1 point and get that is a bit much.
Yeah.
And while there is, and as far as the escalation thing, honestly, we kind of already have that with how NPC difficulties work. You know, you can go with that, or just add in a die worth of modifiers. But I will I will be very adamant against using oh using the oh, you could probably do the whole thing of um multiple forms with a different modifier budget. But when it comes to consumables with the whole inventory point thing, that I'm definitely not going with.
No, that because we already have a system for that.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, you don't. I mean, you can't really get any items until you restock during a certain phase. But you know, at least you're not spending points to do it.
If I'm being honest, when it comes to inventory points, it's just MP and a different coat of paint.
Yep.
And that's instead why I went with the playing card hand approach of having them as a once per encounter thing. It's just that the chemist has more slots.
I will say I do like the artwork for the escalation here. It's actually pretty nice.
Yeah. Uh, and when it comes to journeys and travels, uh, I have something in mind for a traveling system, but I don't plan on cribbing notes from Fabula Ultima for it. Instead, I'm going to be cribbing notes from the One Ring.
Speaking of, I have the second edition books on my shelf.
Yeah. The One Ring is very good. I'm glad that Free League picked it up after Cubicle 7 lost the license.
Unfortunate.
Mm-mm. But when it comes to the idea of doing traveling or doing dungeons, um, I don't think I need to put in dungeon rules per se. In fact, that's something I've tried to avoid doing. Also, hi there, Le Pen.
Woohoo! Professor Penn. 'Cause- 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 'cause
But I did look a bit at the whole concept of ritualism, and that kind of thing of having this this kind of large scale spell with ritual magic. We kind of
Mm-hmm.
already have that.
Mm-hmm.
We have that in the advanced rules with the idea of ritualism being a part of item synthesis. Something I took very heavily the the concept of rituals and consecration that was in a game called Heavens and Heresies that I reviewed with Zan several years ago. And in fact, I'm gonna double check, but I believe part of ritualism allows you to consecrate an area so that you could cast certain spells as innate.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Uh, the first thing you do with ritualism is create a place of power. Uh, Using one of the 4 ritual schools, uh, which you can only access based on your choice of job. And yeah, it's the rights abilities for, say, elementalism
Mm-hmm.
would let you cast certain spells. As with all the other setups when it came to item synthesis, what you can do with it is based on uh, what essences you're using in that place. So essentially, the more different types of essences you put in, the more passive bonuses you get. The highest tier determines the active effect with rights, which I'd I'd say is going to be a bit more diverse than having rituals as a um, as this special kind of as the special kind of clock spell that they have that's on page 118. But let's see, when it comes to items, they have it on a get on a standard monetary setup. The kind of thing I tried to avoid because I wanted the shopping part just to be just as much of a game as everything else, which is why I do the whole resources and stake thing, which some people have had issues with. And I really hope Discord isn't trying to mess with me. And it says Fabula Ultima, my first translation project, non-authorized. It's an interesting experience. I like the travel system and the zero power system as local limit breaks. Which I can understand, though. And hang on, I think my setup has decided to freeze up on me. So give it one moment, folks.
I see spiritism and I'm getting PT.
Ah, are we back? Okay. Discord decided to crash on me. Everything else seems to be going just fine, though.
Yeah, that's weird how that happened.
Alright, now I can hear you.
When I saw spiritism, I'm like, oh god, it's back.
Um, I know with the goods and services, they have the different costs when it comes to getting a terrestrial vehicle, getting aquatic, or the like. I remember not doing. I remember a big reason I didn't go that route is because imagine if you're in a setting more like Spira, you know, which is this massive archipelago of islands. In that kind of setting, boat travel is going to be more common. So why would it be more expensive? Uh, and as far as fences, but it seemed to me, despite trying to be about everything, it was primarily about combat. Because of this, some of our players felt a little lost, as they only saw combat options in front of them, which that is fair. I mean, my game is Legend Edition is heavily leaning towards combat, even with some of the other options that are available. But that's just us emulating the source material.
And that's pretty much all it is, and it works.
Mm-hmm. But I have seen that kind of thing in the past where somebody goes, "I want to run D&D, but I don't want to use combat," and I'm just sitting there going, "Then why are you using D&D? Why would you want to run a combat-less campaign in a game called Dungeons and Dragons?"
I've seen that before in a few servers I was in at one point.
But this was one thing I noted in the second video. If this game is supposed to be so setting agnostic, I have to ask one important question. Why do tiers of weapon proficiency exist? Why is there a line between basic equipment and martial equipment? I think that's an important question to ask. Sorry if I cut you off.
Oh no, you're fine.
Now I remember asking that exact same question.
Pardon me, that is my alarm for my medicine.
No worries. But like the weapons are very much skewing towards that SNES era stuff. Same with the armor.
Yep.
It bugs the hell out of me that a lot of the equipment is just number move, as well as heavier armor having just a static defense instead, doing the whole lighter armor uses dexterity and heavier armor just has a static amount.
Yeah.
That is a D&D that is a D&D 5e conceit. Why are we doing that here?
And I know I've mentioned this in conversations we've had about this before, but the equipment and whatnot just reminds me a lot of Ragnarok, how it had base equipment. Then you can enhance it with different cards, you can upgrade it with blacksmiths, etc.
Hmm. Which, if we ever do a Ragnarok episode for Fated Continuum, I don't think we'd need to include the card system.
We wouldn't, because there is way too much to account for with that.
Not only that, but we already have that kind of customization with magic items anyways.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I still have to rig up some treasure for Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be fun. Just minor little upgrades for the players.
To quote a certain movie, upgrades, baby, upgrades.
Yes!
But when it comes to the idea of projects, I feel like that is something that can be done as a downtime activity. Although the question that's in the back of my mind is, should it be done via skill checks, or should it be done via resources?
I guess it really depends on the project in question.
Mm-mm. The
Actually, no, no,
the
no,
way
no, no, no.
projects are described here, the idea is you're making custom inventions.
Yeah.
So if we're dealing with making magic items, we already have that accounted for with item synthesis.
Yeah. I was going to say something along the lines of, like, I guess it would depend on the tier of item you're making, like lesser, greater, relic, and then artifact. It should have like a fixed resource cost, and then there's definitely be a skill roll of some sort,
Yeah.
depending on the project in question.
Mm-hmm. Um, with ritualism and creating magic items, we have something close to that. Quote, magic items may be created in a place of power or during downtime. The tier of the essence used determines the tier of the magic item that may be used as follows. Tier 1, lesser. Tier 2, greater. Tier 3, relic. Tier 4, artifact. It should be noted that the magic item synthesis does not create the item, it simply enchants the item. This means that when creating a magic item, the catalyst item must already exist. Regardless of which school of rituals you use, you have access to all enchantments as long as you have the points for them. Thus, this is the only right that does not change mechanically between the four schools. That said, it's advisable to alter the appearance of the magic item to thematically match the ritual school used. And Penn says, one of the players who felt lost encountered the fact that the construction of combat encounters in the plot works as a separate scene, and it seems there's an opportunity to do something narratively interesting, but even within the framework of the action with the clock, it was not effective, unlike pressing the buttons prescribed by the rules.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean by that? I'll put a pin in that while I see what Penn has to say on that. I have a feeling I know where you're going with that, Penn, but I'd like to be sure. But I think for this, I think the equivalent of projects that we would be adapting should be things like building a motorcycle, building a homunculus, building a magical house, building a mansion.
Oh god.
Essentially, the
Oh god,
projects
no,
that we
not a
saw.
homunculus.
uh, not a FMA kind of homunculus. I'm not.
I was about to say I've seen FMA. I know how this shit works.
But by the way, the clock system is usually measure progress both in fast-paced situations. I mean, possibly. I just prefer the approach that Cyberpunk Red's solo rules use, because you don't have a hard guarantee of how long you have. But I think for the sake of this, the project should be something that is downtime exclusive, and you are making something that is going to involve a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say it's actually, instead of drawing upon the project's setup that Fabula Ultima has, you know what I think has a better framework for projects?
Mm-hmm.
Draw Steel.
That is true. I didn't even think about that. I was like, oh wow, it's been a while since we've done Draw Steel, so yeah, definitely.
Because the idea with projects in Draw Steel is they're not going to be something you do in one downtime activity. It's something that you're going to be doing passively over the course of several sessions. You know, something that might happen in the background. Think of like in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, where you're sending assassins out on different missions. You know, so you can give them experience so that you can use them as a ambush weapon later on.
Yep.
Brotherhood was great.
I've not played much Assassin's Creed. It just wasn't my thing.
Yeah. I mean, in Fabula, it seemed that attempts to influence the environment and enemies in battle had no impact, even though the system claims that it's possible. We talked about that earlier, but the argument that's made is the whole working towards a goal action in combat. But that is extremely contextual, which is why I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to the sample projects, I think these we can create equivalents using Legend Edition. Those sample projects are on page 138.
All right, I was just there not long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually looking at these earlier, and I'm like, oh god, we so evil if if we put in negator spikes.
So let's see. What I'm going to do is make it so that it's a little easier for me to jump between. And actually, I need to do this with the Ultimania book, not with the core book, because that is where because for the Discovery, that is where we put in our airships.
Oh, right. I need to open up the Ultimania book too. Let me go through the library computer, pull her up.
It's described as a large airship that can transport up to 50 people, has no additional firepower or protection. This is just the base chassis of the airship. So, if this is an airship that can fit about 50 people...
That's a freaking transport right there. Holy cow.
Yeah. I would say the airship rating should be 6.
A frigate.
So that means the TN is 40. Difference between players and game master, typically through Fabula points. I talked about that, and there's a recurring thing of broad when it needs to be specific and specific when it needs to be broad. That was in one of my videos. But I remember some people saying that the base resources roll is a little high at first, and I'm like, that might be when you're dealing with just standard equipment, which is why you can't bring everything that you buy. But once you start getting into treasure stuff, now you're going to need to start spending stake.
Yep.
And in the case of a frigate, that is a TN of 40. But
I am not just going to be handing out airships.
No. So I'd say... So since that's... So it's not getting any new... It's not getting any armor, any countermeasures. I would say the only base upgrade is crew, and I'd say that should be 3. So crew 3. As far as facilities, cargo bay is 1. Let's see, not armory, but archives.
Yep.
And mess hall.
I was about to say, and a mess hall.
Yeah. Because the Discovery is a jumped up version of, say, the Serenity. Or the Bebop. These aren't exactly fighting ships.
Yeah.
Let's see, the Gatling Golem, which acts after the inventor's turn, deals minor physical damage to a single target. Enemies can spend opportunity to disable it. This would just be the standard companion for the engineer job. And no worries, Pen. Never apologize.
Yeah.
But so Gatling Golem, that's just the buddy that you get from being an engineer. Though we can at least specify what you'd end up taking on that front to replicate this sort of thing. Let's see, and
River is extremely loud and highly experimental.
hmm. Let's see. I would say oh,
I'm suddenly reminded of Jimmy Neutron with the Gatling Golem after he has his dog play dead, which means he basically self-destructs and then reassembles.
hmm.
Oh, what's the matter? Can't your robot spontaneously reassemble after a main core implosion?
So it has Automon attack. As far as the secondary major action, I think that should be um probably backup resource.
Mm.
Uh, as far as minor action, uh, well, definitely not Bull Rush. I'd say probably defensive fighting. And because of that, you could just have this as a very low tier magic item. So, and this is the reason I didn't do further multi-classing beyond what's already there, because you could just take a magic item to kind of dip into a class, or dip into a job, I should say.
Yep.
But let's see, where is it? Here we are. Because I'm fairly certain within the magic items it is an ability to get a well, it technically is, but also not. You would be taking an NPC quality job feature. Actually, let me. No, it's not a one. It's not a one pointer. Nope. It's just nope. Just take job feature, which is a 2-pointer.
Yep.
So. I know it would be tempting for someone to say, "Well, what if you already have automaton because you're an engineer? Would you just get 2 of them?" That's the neat part. You don't.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think so.
No. If you already have the feature, it doesn't do anything. Let's see. Mag boots. Pretty sure I have a status immunity, because that could easily just be being immune to being knocked down.
Yep.
Uh, Yep, status proof. That'd be a greater magic item. So you just can't be knocked down. Which would make it very, very useful if you ever have to fight a Chocobo Knight.
Yep.
But Magitech suit. Um, I feel the Magitech suit is obviously trying to channel the Magitech Knight armor from FF6.
Mhm. A giant riot armor that's bipedal and shoots magic
Mm-hmm.
and missiles.
Yep. But I would say I think it should still be a magic. I think it still can be a magic item.
Oh yeah.
Uh, so let's see. So it has resistance to fire. So element protection.
Mm-hmm. Element protection, fire.
Let's see. I'd say spell. I'd say spellcasting. It is definitely a way to replicate um the heat ray that it does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm pretty sure I've got ray spells in blue magic. And I'm pretty sure one of them can
Fire beam, bolt beam.
um blast shot.
Blast shot.
Does fire damage and is treated as a ranged attack.
Oof.
So let's see. Element protection, that's 1 point. Spellcasting is also 1 point. So this would this would be a lesser magic item.
Yep.
I think this should be magic armor though. Like I was thinking, should it get the Magitech Knight abilities? I'm like, nah.
No.
And I understand that we have a huge library of Final Fantasy tracks at our disposal, but have you thought about creating your own soundtrack for FFLE? I don't have the funds for that. Like if you're asking what I think you're asking for, Pen, I would have to commission like Stringstorm or somebody to make a full soundtrack. I do have a custom soundtrack of a bunch of different sources that I use for my own stuff. And hell, for the one-shots I've been doing on Saturdays, I don't use much of any Final Fantasy music. But the idea of creating a soundtrack for FFLE, I would need to crowdfund that. And that's... Yeah, and I'm not sure if anybody's going to spend money on that. Or at least spend money on me to get that done. Let's see. So, as far as the magic armor for the Magitech suit, it would be physical, heavy, thick, tough, um, thick, tough, physical, and uh, I'd say the third one would be sturdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the suggestion, Pen. It's just that kind of thing's not cheap.
No.
But let's see, the protection, fire, spellcasting, blast shot. Okay, negator spike. When driven into the ground, this rune inscribed spike will prevent all creatures from casting spells or performing rituals. Lasts until the end of the scene. I think negator spike is just that is essentially a wide cast of silence.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see here. So, consumables doing all allies or all enemies effect on consumables is the chemist limit break.
The mega item.
Yep. But I believe we do have an item that can inflict silence. Let's see, negative conditions. Mute mask. Which inflicts silence for either 1d, which inflicts silence as 1d4. I think we just have 4 different tiers of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So inflict silence. I'd say, given the impact of silence, I think this should be at minimum greater tier.
Yeah.
So relic would be 1d6 and artifact would be 1d8. let's see, Pure Dust. Grants resistance to dark and poison. Oh, we already have, damn it, we already have the element, the curtain effects. So I'd say, since it's doing two things at once, I think this. Would you say this that it would be a relic tier?
For the armor?
No, for Pure Dust.
For pure dust? Let's see. Grants the dust. Definitely. This
Yeah,
stuff seems like it would be a little more hard to come by.
we don't have poison damage, because that was kind of silly, because the only spell that really inflicts poison damage is Bio. So why have a damage type for something that's only going to be used by one spell?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Say relic. So damage reduction X shadow. I believe I have that at 1d6. Let's see. Yep. And let's see. I don't think I have. I don't have condition immunity. Effects. But I'd say, I'd say damage reduction X shadow 1d6 and cures poison. That'd be fine as a relic.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna because it's doing two things as one item. That'd be crazy if someone adds something else as part of mix. But I consider that part of the fun.
Yeah. Because you never know what crazy shit you'll come up with.
Let's see, pyro oil uses a vortex of flames and does minor fire damage. That's just a spell item.
Yep.
Sleep gas.
It's a grenade.
Yep, sleep gas would also be a spell item. Underwater.
Gas grenade.
Yep. And underwater helm, same thing. So now we can get to the actual fun stuff with the classes.
Woo!
So let's see. Their Arcanist is basically our summoner. So I think what we'll be doing is seeing what skills we have an equivalent to and what ones we might have as class-specific feats. So Arcanist is on page 176.
Yep.
Uh,
It looks like a mixture of summoner and yokai, actually.
mm-mm.
I mean, I dig it. I love the artwork.
Yep. So Arcane Circle. When you dismiss an Arcanum, you can, if it had not been summoned during the same turn, you have an arcane weapon effect. You can perform the spell action for free. Uh,
So, like the summoner, like you said.
mhm. So, let's see. How about this? As a For Arcane Circle, as a summoner, when you switch summons, you can use their minor action immediately.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Uh, let's see. You do not get the new Eidolon's minor action at the end of the turn.
Yep.
So you're spending an action to switch Eidolons. The one that you switch out gets to use its minor action automatically.
Yep.
The new one doesn't get its minor action though. So you are kind of you're kind of cheating the economy with this feat, which I'm putting in as a spellcasting feat.
Yeah.
So,
It kind of reminds me, you got the minor action of the other one, and then when the new one comes in, you don't get that. I feel like that's like a summoning sickness condition.
mhm. Which, by the way, every planeswalker in Magic the Gathering is a geomancer.
Yes.
Let's see, arcane regeneration. When you summon, you immediately recover HP. Not doing that.
Nope.
That would be way too powerful because of how we have summoning work. Bind and summon. Not doing that. I'm not having people spend a shitload of MP to do a summoning. Let's see. There's a revised version of the Arcana since the original didn't work the way Emma wanted. I may look at that later. Let's see, Emergency Arcanum, that can be skipped. Ritual Arcanum. Or Ritual Arcanism. That one, I think...
Sorry, I'm kind of reading over it.
I think I have an idea. But I need to look back at the ritualism thing because I want to. So, the idea that I have is for arcane ritualism, you can use the major action. At, you can use the major action as a ritual rite.
Mhm.
Uh,
That sounds good.
so, let's see, ritual arcanism. Obviously, this requires summoner and requires art of synthesis.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So they at least have to be a higher level 1 summoner before they can do that.
mm-hmm.
Or are those spellcasting feats?
Um, yeah, this would be treated as a spellcasting feat, one that
Mm-hmm.
requires art of synthesis. Which, let me see what category had art of synthesis as. Art of synthesis is an equipment feat. So honestly, I think I think ritual arcanism should be an equipment feat as well. Uh,
Yeah, because I'm trying to put myself between the two books and I'm like, wait, where is he finding this?
yep. So the way I have it written is the available rights in a place of power. In a place of power you create include any of your Eidolon's major actions. This means your allies could use your Eidolon's major actions.
That's nice.
Because remember, as long as you're in the place of power, as long as you and your allies are in the place of power that you make, anybody in the party can use rights. You just have a limited amount of times you can use them.
Mm-hmm.
Ah. And Penn says the problem was that the original Arcanist consumes a lot of mana but provides few noticeable effects. That's probably because Emma was drawing way too much on the source material and falling into traps I avoided. But let's see
And the merging with the Arcana sounds like something that the yokai would do.
Yeah,
Assuming the form of the avatar.
actually, the way the merge setup is written, we kind of already have that with some of these summon effects, like
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they grant damage resistance passively. So, but when it comes to the Arcana themselves, the Forge is very much is even with the forging part of it, that's Ifrit.
Mm-hmm.
The Frost, that's Shiva. The Gate, it's Diablos.
Mm-hmm.
The Grimoire, I'd say that's Eden.
Mm-hmm.
The Oak, that's Titan. The Sky, that's Ramu. The Sword, oh,
Odin.
yep. The Tower, Alexander.
Alexander, for sure.
Yep. And actually, the Wheel would probably be Eden, but Let's see, Chimerist, which is essentially their blue mage. Uh, let's see, consume the way it had the way it that kind of MP drain we already have with magic items. Um, Feral speech would just be a language thing. Let's see, pathogenesis.
Yeah, just monster language.
Yeah. See, pathogenesis. When you deal damage to one or more creatures with a chimera spell, each of those creatures that share that species with the creature you originally learned the spell from suffers poisoned. That is something we couldn't really do because I didn't build the blue magic spells to be tied to particular NPC types.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be worthwhile to turn something like this into a feat because it would just narrow it down and people would just take it multiple times.
Mm-hmm. I do have a different idea though. If your weapon has Bane and you target that type with a blue magic spell, the spell's rank always goes up by 1. Meaning at minimum you're
Very
casting
nice.
at rank 2. I think that should that be a spell casting or equipment feat?
Just judging by what you said with that, I would say equipment.
So it requires blue mage.
Actually, no. I retract that. Spell casting.
Alright.
I was about to say, because if it's tied to a specific class, and I know that as far as the feats are concerned, they're not really tied to a specific class. So if we're going to do that, we might as well have that in a category that, spellcasters can use.
So if your weapon has Bane towards the target of your blue magic spells, the spell's rank goes up by 1. So if you have Bane Demon and use a blue magic spell on a demon type NPC, then the spell's rank goes up by 1 when you roll it.
That sounds awesome.
Let's see, Ritual Chimerism, no need for that. Spell Mimic, we already have, we have Libras.
We
so
have that.
Mhm. Let's see, Darkblade, the edgiest edgy to ever edgy. So let's see, Agony is built around the bond system, which no, that would be way too specific. Dark Blood, as long as you're in Crisis, you have resistance to dark and poison damage.
Equipment feat.
Should that be equipment or basic combat?
You're thinking about it again. No. Melee combat. I feel like that would be best suited to a melee combat feat. Not to mention, I'm not sure how I haven't. I'd have to read over the book again, but I'm not sure how many melee combat feats would enable such an effect when you're in SOS. Let me see. Now I'm curious.
Let's see. Painful lesson. After another creature causes you to lose hit points, you may immediately perform the study action on that creature for free. No. Let's see. Shadow Strike. You can use an action to perform a Shadow Strike. Roll your current might die and roll and lose a number of hit points.
This is just Soul Eater.
Yep, it is Soul Eater. Let's see. Elementalist. Which is they say also Geomancer, but let's be honest, Elementalist. I had nicknamed my Black Mage Elementalist anyways, though when I said that I was thinking of the Elementalist in Guild Wars. Which Guild Wars 1 and 2 would make for an interesting design challenge. But because of the card game-like design of Guild Wars' action system, I honestly think Daggerheart would make a better game for a Guild Wars RPG.
Yeah.
So let's see. Anyway, getting back to Elementalist. But before that, I'm putting in a side note some of the conversion concepts that we might do later on, because I'm gonna put it in that one spot on the Discord.
Definitely something worth coming back to, though.
Oh yeah. So let's see. Elementalist. So
Just
Cataclysm.
looking.
You cast an instantaneous spell. If you have an arcane weapon equipped, you can increase the spell's total MP cost. If you do so and the spell deals damage, it will deal 5 extra damage for each creature that you overcast. And yeah, the Elementalist here is basically a Black Mage. And
yeah.
As far as Cataclysm being able to overcast like that, we already kind of have that in the base setup. So I don't see a reason for that. And Elemental Magic. I still don't like the fact that you have to spend individual skill levels on getting spells.
Yeah. That's kind of ridiculous.
Especially with how confined the level system is. But see, Magical Artillery. If you have a arcane weapon equipped, when you cast an offensive spells, you get a bonus to your magic check. That's just a number go up effect, so I honestly think that wouldn't be worth it.
Nah.
Ritual Elementalism, that's a skip. Spellblade. Let's see. This is just Magic Knight.
Yeah, this is just the first freaking enchanted arms.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. When it comes to the spells themselves for Elementalist, I don't see. I don't see any spell that I don't already have. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
there's the matter of how you would do the how you would do
Oh,
the
look. Remember how we were talking about enchanted arms a minute ago? Well, elemental weapon is just
Yep.
that.
Yeah. Elemental Shroud is our thorn spells or spikes. Flare is fire. Fulgur is lightning.
Lightning.
Let's see. Um, Soaring Strike, on the other hand, I do think there's some. I think there's some legs with that, but not necessarily as a spell.
Nah.
But let me
This,
double
this
check.
looks like something that would be better served as a feat.
That's what I'm thinking. The reason I can't do it as a spell is because of the scaling effect.
Yeah.
So
this would be a feat chain, it sounds like.
yeah, first off, I need to see if this how similar this would be to, say, Meteor Strike or Meteor Crush. So you can attack aerial enemies without penalty. If you generate extra effort, they are grounded and inflicted with prone 1. I kind of already have what I was thinking of with Meteor Crush. So what I'll do instead is a Meteor Crush 2.
Oh ho!
Where actually no, I was gonna do a Meteor Crush 2 where you can attack any target regardless of position.
Oh, that would be good because, I mean, if you, like, say you're coming from the back row, you wouldn't suffer any ill effect that way.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is Soaring Strike. It is a melee combat feat. This one does not require a job. And have it that when you can attack from, you can make a weapon attack from at any target from any position, but when you do this, you don't get reactions until the start of your next turn.
Sounds like a fair trade-off. You're basically casting Fighter Doken on yourself.
Mm-mm.
Me Doken! I taught him that one. It's perfect.
Which I know some might say, what, you can't do reactions? How is that big of a deal? People in the playtests, and I think in your experience, have learned, do not underestimate the power of reactions in this system.
Oh, exactly.
And
I think more recently in the session I played in the Argito Arcanum selection trial.
Yep.
I showed the power of the Dwarf Ages of, like, yep, this is how you do it, fuckers. You just weren't doing it right the first time.
You can lord that over Cecilia because she ended up getting carried by everybody else. And
Here's
she was playing the same archetype as you.
mm-hmm. I was like, ooh, I know this type all too well. That's why I'm playing it because I love tanking.
Mm-hmm. But let's see, Entropist, which is
Which is Cosmic Mage.
yep. So let's see, Absorb MP. We already have that. Entropic Magic. That's basically how you get your spells.
Yeah, that's the
What I
spell
said
list.
before. Did I forget to mention that you are capped at 10 levels per class in this thing?
That's some BS.
Let's see.
I'd have to do some major homebrewing to kind of break that. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that.
I know some people have compared it to Sword World, but I think it's trying, like I said, it's trying to do some of the stuff that Fear does in their games, but
Yeah.
kind of missing the point. But so lucky 7. You have a lucky number at the beginning of each session. That number is 7. Once per scene after you perform a check, you may replace the value shown on one of the dice you rolled with your lucky number. If you do, the replaced value becomes your new lucky number. This is a fortune feat.
Mm-hmm.
However, instead of lucky 7, I think we're calling it lucky 13.
Oh dear God, no.
Because a 7 on a die roll, not going to mean much.
True.
But this has fortune feat written all over it.
Yes, definitely.
And I'm putting once per scene or turn if you're in combat. You may treat a d20 roll as if you rolled 13. Actually, no, I'm gonna have some fun with it. You treat it as if you roll 13. Afterwards, you roll a d20, and that becomes your lucky number.
Mm-hmm.
This means that you could use it to turn to guarantee a success, but then you'd have to run the risk of getting a lucky number that is not. So I'm gonna put in parentheses for lucky number and lucky 13 un.
Oh, that's just mean.
Yeah. You're fucking around with fate. What did you think was gonna happen?
Imagine putting this on an astrologian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The astrologian is already praying to RN Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, stolen time. During a conflict, you can use an action to mess with the flow of time, spending MP for each 5 you spend. You can either make one creature suffer slow, one creature recovers from slow, or one creature can perform the equipment action, or one ally can take the turn during their round. We already kind of have this with Cosmic Mage. Them being able to screw around with the turn order. But when it comes to Entropist spells, let's see. Acceleration.
Excel. That's just haste.
Mm-hmm. Anomaly, which flips that flips absorb or immunity into vulnerability.
Dark weapons, just enchanted arms again.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Anomaly. I think that we can have as a spell.
That sounds interesting. I'm assuming this is falling under the Cosmic Mage spell list.
Mm-hmm. So I'd say, what would you say should be the minimum rank for this kind of spell if it's costing 20 MP?
Rank 2 or 3. Probably rank 3, judging from the power of this thing.
And this would be a negative condition, so have fun with this if you've got a Spirit Master in the party.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, you just had to go for the crude joke, didn't you?
Hey, I was the one who picked it for the Christmas show.
Hey, that was still fun, though.
Mm.
Made a bitch of my vampire.
But so I'd say the rank of the spell is going to determine the duration.
Mm-hmm.
So let me look at damage modification so I can see what would the equivalent be.
Wouldn't the minimum just be like 3 turns?
Yeah. Otherwise, this would be a one turn thing at minimum.
Yeah.
Oh. So let me. Okay, weird. Ah, here it is. So I think damage absorption I don't think, and damage protection I don't think would have any effect because there's no way to really flip those.
Maybe instead of flipping them, they just degrade.
Well, you can't really degrade absorption. You either absorb or you don't.
Yeah.
So I think damage absorption and protection are unaffected. Damage reduction becomes damage vulnerability. And actually, um, for damage protection, I think that can be damage. I think that can be flipped into damage spiking equal to half the protection value.
This
So
spell, I
no,
think we
it's
already have something equivalent to that.
mhm. So damage protection. No, that'd just be vulnerability is anti spiking is anti armor, so that wouldn't work. So I'd say so damage spiking actually becomes so you know what? I'm just gonna stick to damage reduction being vulnerability,
Mhm.
and leave the rest alone. Oh, because it does it they don't have enough parallels to make that work.
Yeah.
Uh, so it can certainly do some nasty things, but it's not all encompassing. But the spell
I'll
we
say
already
it's
have.
not an LP yet.
Yep, the spell we already
Yeah.
have that. Divination. Uh,
Isn't that a white mage skill?
yeah. Let's see, drain spirit, so MP drain, we already have that. Drain vigor, that's HP drain, we already have that. Um, gamble,
This is just reels.
yep. We've got a whole thing of reels. Let's see, mirror, that's just reflect. Omega, uh, that's just a straight up damage spell.
Mm-hmm.
Stop, we have that, and Umbra, that's just a dark spell.
Yep.
Okay, so Fury. This is this is I'm not sure why the art for Fury looks like a monk, because that's what I'm gonna be thinking of when the kit is very much not a monk.
A mixture of Ragnarok and Final Fantasy Tactics Monk, definitely.
So let's see. Adrenaline, as long as you're in crisis, you deal extra damage. We already have that with Berserker. Let's see. Frenzy. Attacks trigger a critical success if both show the same number. I already have that with Berserker.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Indomitable Spirit.
Isn't
Summon a
that just a Sentinel feature?
Yep. Provoke. We definitely have that elsewhere.
Yep. And Withstand is just cover.
Yeah. So not a whole lot we can grab from Fury.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Guardian. Um.
It's just a gender swapped Maki. That's all it is.
Oh. Let's see.
I mean, I like it.
Let's see. Bodyguard. Uh. I'm seeing a whole lot of Sentinel.
Yeah, I was about to say this is cover. Defensive mastery is
Yep.
just paladin. Wait, no, that's a combat feat, isn't it?
Mm-mm. So dual shield bearer. Um. We don't really have the whole handed setup.
Yeah.
Let's see. Fortress, more HP. We have that as a feat. Protect. That's a paladin.
That's Pridwin.
Yep. Oh yeah. So lore master. Let's see. Flash of insight.
Isn't that just Scholar?
Yeah. Um. Let's see. Focus increases mind points. No. Knowledge is power. Um, I'm pretty sure I already have an effect that lets you use knowledge for attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Let me... Yeah, I do. I have it as a skill feat.
Quick assessment is just Libra.
Wait, let's see. Knowledge is power. Actually, I take that back. I don't. What I... Because knowledge is power lets you use knowledge instead of the skill normally used to target a skill defense. But... So if we can't call it... I think we can use the effect as a skill feat.
Mm-hmm.
We would just need to figure out another name for it.
I don't know about this one, actually. Because this looks like... Because reading it, it looks like an equipment feed.
I'd like to say that, but since it's using skills, since it's using the knowledge thing, which is adjacent to skills, that's why I'm thinking it's a skill feat.
Yeah. Okay. I can definitely see that.
And I was gonna do it. I was gonna do the whole replace knowledge with either physical or magical attack, but because of the way you develop interests and the fact that everything's kind of on a half level bonus when it comes to your fighting abilities, that's not going to have as much of an effect.
No.
So I think instead, if you possess an interest tied to the target of a weapon attack, I'd say you gain one boon plus an additional amount of boons equal to the amount of skill feats you have.
Yeah, but what to rename this thing?
Oh, Master Anatomist.
Yep.
Actually, I think I know one. Battlefield Surgeon.
Oh.
You know, much like there was the pharmacist, and then there was the harmacist. But
Yep.
let's see, quick assessment. We already kind of have that with size up. Trained memory. We already kind of have that in a feat. Let's see, orator. We
Just a mediator.
Yeah, everything I see in this is just a mediator. Let's see. Rogue. So let's see. Cheap shot, which just does extra damage based on how many debuffs. I think we've already got that.
Mm-hmm.
Dodge. There's no way we could do that. You're always going to have armor.
Mm.
High speed. We already... spending MP to either to perform a free attack. We already have plenty of freebies when it comes to the thief.
Yeah.
See you later. That's not happening.
Oh.
Soul Steel. That's more or less how we have our Soul Steel feels like something for merchant. Except we don't. Except the items that enemies drop is based on the way the GM sets up monsters. So I don't think it'd really be worth it.
Sure. You wouldn't believe some of the things people drop and the frequency with which they are dropped, given their high monetary values.
Let's see. Sharpshooter. I think a lot of this is going to be sniper. Let's see.
Sniper.
Barrage.
Yep.
Crossfire. I had that board game.
That was a fun game. Lost a lot of the beads, though.
Yep. Let's see. Performance a ranged attack. You can spend MP equal to the total amount of their accuracy check in order to have the attack fail against all targets. I think Crossfire has some legs, but not with the MP spent.
Mm-hmm.
And it is most definitely a ranged combat spell. Or not
Yep.
Not spell, feat.
Ranged combat feat, definitely.
Basically, when I think the approach I'm gonna go with is something akin to the way I handle things like cover and Soul Eater.
Mm-hmm.
You roll a die. That die becomes a penalty to an opponent's ranged attack. If the attack fails, you lose MP equal to what you rolled.
Oh, that's diabolical. Holy cow.
I'm not specifying a ranged attack, just when they make an attack.
Maybe this should be something like an attack that targets the back row.
I think it should be a single target attack.
I can go with that.
Uh, the die rolled becomes a penalty to the target to the opponent's attack.
So it inflicts the bane. Nice.
Yeah, I thought about adding Banes, but oh, that would limit the cost range. And I am having it that Crossfire is a reaction. But let's see, should we have improved version where you're rolling more than one dice like we do with Dark Knight and Paladin?
Yeah,
Actually,
maybe one, maybe just an additional level above the first.
so Crossfire 1. And yeah, cover doesn't have the improvements with the die setup that that Soul Eater does.
Mm-hmm.
It just gives you more. It just gives you more opportunities. So Crossfire 2 and 3 gives you an additional die. You are using the sum of them for the effects. So I'd say that's a good risk reward for that.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see. Hawkeye. Well, we already have a Hawkeye feat. Let's see. Warning shot. Deals no damage but debuffs. We kind of already have that with aim.
Yeah.
Let's see. Spiritist. Which I guess this is supposed to be. I guess this is the white mage. Uh,
I'm the white mage, and nobody fucks with the white mage. No, nobody fucks with the spirit master in this case.
so you cast a spell.
I'm never letting that go.
You have an arc. All right, that we definitely increase healing setup. That's a white mage thing.
Yep.
Support magic. Uh, have giving a boost to allies you have a bond towards, I feel like overly favors some allies.
Yeah. And if we were to do something like that, we'd have to, reword it to make sure it's, anybody or
Mhm.
like a specific
Yeah.
or targets within the specific row.
And Vismagus, we have that with Lifestream. That's basically cast from HP.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see. It's always kind of amusing that Berserk, or in this case Enrage, is a white magic spell.
Yep.
uh, but I think the Spiritus spells, we already have all of them in white magic.
Yep. Aura is just barrier,
Mm-hmm.
which is funny considering barrier is just protect. Awaken is just
Ability up.
sleep. Huh? Oh, okay.
Uh, there,
Cleanse is
there's
Esena.
Yep. Enrage is Berserk. Um, Hallucination, we have Mad Hallucination as a illusionist spell.
Mm.
Heal is Cure. Lux is Light. Mercy, it's kind of second chance. Actually, no. Mercy is auto life.
Yep.
Uh, Reinforce, we already have that. Soul Weapon, that's Magic Knight.
Yep.
And Torpor is, well, slow. So,
Yeah.
and we have Tinkerer. Let's see, emergency item, that's auto item. Uh, Gadgets. I'll come back to that. Potion Rain, that's that is a chemist thing.
Throw item.
Yep. Secret Formula, that's also a very chemist thing. And Visionary is tied to projects, and I would be kind of iffy about giving one class an advantage when it comes to a whole system like that. But when I see, so with alchemy, we already have that with item synthesis. Let's see, with infusions. This would be handled by Magic Knight.
Yep.
And Magitech. I think a lot of this would be handled by Engineer. Let's see, anti-soldier setup. We kind of already have that with Engineer. The magic cannon. Well, anybody could make that with just the basic rules. Let's see, Magisphere. I think that would... The way this is described about these Magisphere prototypes, immediately casting spell actions, we have spell-like items, so that's already covered.
Yep.
Let's see, Wayfarer. Alright, Faithful Companion is Beastmaster.
Yep.
Resourceful, we can't do that. Let's see, Tavern Talk. That would be a little too situational.
Isn't that a social feat anyway?
Yeah.
Room and board.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Treasure Hunter. It's tied to the journey system. I have something else in mind for that. Let's see. Well traveled. Same thing. Then Weapon Master.
I do dig the guy's fit.
Mm-hmm.
That's very nice, actually.
So let's see. Blade Storm lets you do multiple attacks by spending MP.
It's multi-attack. It's
Yep.
multi-attack, but with MP costs.
Mm-hmm. Oh. I enjoyed spending time with you, but I have to get ready for work. Oh, no worries, Pen, and I appreciate you stopping by. But, let's see.
Later, Pen. Have a good night.
Bone Crusher. Let's see, it either inflicts dazed or weak, or the target loses MP. But dealing no damage. I'm pretty sure I've got some stuff like that for Berserker. Let's see, Breach. We use an action and spend 5 MP to perform a free attack with a melee weapon. Destroy one. This is just our break arts.
Yep.
Let's see, counterattack. Everybody gets counterattacks.
And counterattack as well. Just counterattack.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe you could have it that you always get counterattacks on evens. But I think we already have...
This... It's like, no, this is just counterattack mixed with multi-attack.
So, and melee weapon mastery is just number go up. We already have that. And when it comes to the heroic skills, which, by the way, you don't get these until you have 10 levels in a particular class, which is referred to as mastering the class. That very much is a nod to... That's clearly a nod to FF5. I just don't think it fits here.
It doesn't.
But let's see. When it comes to the heroic skills, some of these might fit as feats. Ambidextrous, we don't have an equivalent. Extra HP and MP, we have HP and MP training. Extra spells, I don't think we have ways to get additional spell slots. So I think that's something that can be done.
Yeah. Perhaps those spells could be like innate, rather than just simply learning them.
I have a different idea.
Okay.
Your PCM is treated as one higher for the purposes of spell slots.
Okay. Wait, PCM affects the amount of spell slots we
MCM.
have? Oh, I heard PCM.
That's because I misspoke.
No worries. I was like, maybe I'm just getting tired. And I was like, wait, did I hear that right?
Uh, I don't think you should be able to take it multiple times.
Oh,
Because
definitely not. That would be.
as you're leveling up, there's a potential for your MCM to go up anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a slight edge. It's basically giving you an extra spell slot. So let's see. Let's see. Adversity. If you have a status effect, you get a bonus to checks. We already have that. Arcane Echo. That relies on clocks. That's a skip. Chimeric Mastery lets you choose multiple species. That isn't going to be applicable. Comet. Well, we already have that spell. Deep Pockets. This means you spend one less inventory point. We already have the Alchemist Pocket, so that doesn't fit.
Yeah, that's no.
Disarming Rhetoric. We have that with Mediator.
Extra HP. There's an enchantment for that,
and
I think there's a feed.
Yep. Heartbreaker. Nah. Let's see. Heroic Companion. It's just an improved companion. We already have that with Beastmaster. Let's see. Hope is tied to the rules for surrendering. No. Mathemagic.
No, we're not doing a Rhythmancer.
No. I think somebody tried that in the early days and it didn't stick.
You're already doing enough math at the table. You don't need to do more.
Mm-hmm. Monkey Grip. Not really gonna work here. Perfect Aim. Not really applicable. Let's see. Pillage. We already nicked Soul Steal, so nope. Powerful Shot. Number go up. Powerful Spell. Also number go up. Powerful Strike. Also number go up.
Go up.
Predictable!
Predictable!
This is Oracle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Rampart. That's basically Sentinel. Repetition. That's again Mediator. Let's see,
I thought Entertainer had something to do with this effect too.
Yeah. Tempest Strike is just slash all. And yeah, the heroic skills for some that you have to spend 10 levels in order to get. I think I said this in the review. A lot of them feels like the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Mm-mm.
see in Wick. When it comes to the bestiary, that's something I'm gonna have to come to later. I think we can dip a little bit into the Atlas books.
Well, it's a good thing I have them all open.
Yep. So let's start with high fantasy because that was the one that came first.
Okay. I will go there. Hello, almost every isekai anime out there.
Mm-hmm.
Almost.
So the zero powers is basically a limit break, and as I've mentioned in the past, I have never been all that interested in doing limit breaks as some kind of uber attack. And when it comes to the quirks, I feel like those could be a selection of optional features, the way some of our optional racial features work. But let's instead jump right into the additional classes that are in the High Fantasy Atlas.
Cantor, distant entertainer.
Yep. So let's see. You can sing a verse. You learn all 3 volumes, 1 key and 1 tone. Whenever you acquire this, you can learn a key or a tone. Obviously, I didn't do that. Each performance art is a whole package.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, resonance. So verses are volumes, keys, and tones.
So they're just stages and
So
whatnot.
volume determines the sound intensity and the AOE essentially. Tone is the general effects. And key has a damage type, status effect, attribute, and recovery. But I think there is something that can be done with verses. This is something I'd need to come back to later.
Yeah, I was about to say this is something that I think we should definitely explore.
Yeah. I think the approach I'd probably take is I wouldn't use the spellcasting system, but rather I think volume should determine. Let me double check entertainer for something just to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass.
No worries.
Uh,
I'll actually flip over myself and kind of look over it.
Yeah.
Because
So
this is definitely. Because I have a feeling that this would.
so
I
I'd
feel like
say,
this mechanic would be stages and routines.
yep, it would be it would be closer to stages. Um, so I'd probably have it that you could take a verse as an alternative to stages.
Mhm. But would that be a separate circle feature, or?
Um, it would be it would be akin to how archetypes are treated in Pathfinder,
Mhm.
where they are a side grade to that class, replacing several features. This
Okay.
just means that instead of
I'm.
picking a stage, you'd pick a because normally you can use your performance slots for routines and stages based on your persona mod and plus highest entertainer circle. So all that this means is that instead of taking a routine or a stage, you take a verse. Uh,
But would keys be like separate from that as well?
oh, I'd probably keep the three factors.
Mhm.
Uh, volume.
Because because imagine being able to inflict status ailments on your enemies as an entertainer.
Yep. Um, I would say volume deter. These would work similarly to stages, but be a little bit more customizable.
Mhm.
The volume would be the sustain effect, not the sustain effect, the sustain roll.
Mhm.
So I'd say a a low sustain effect would be you can I think you can pretty much do it as a 5 10 a even low would be evens or odds.
Mhm.
Uh, Medium would be 10 plus. Actually, let's go with 11 plus. I've got more 11 pluses in stages. And high would be 16 plus.
But regardless, you're going to at least hit something. Unless you fumble it, in which case you're just kind of shit out of luck, I guess.
So I'll tackle tone would be the type of effect.
So if you're gonna do with a tone, I definitely pair that with key.
Mm-mm. I could see.
It just makes sense in terms of well, the sheer amount of options between the keys and the tones.
Yeah, I'm not having it as a. I think the approach that I do is the opening effect would the opening effect would just be the initial tone. You would roll you could roll the die to repeat the effect. Uh, though some of them I'm not some like energetic I'm not going to be able to use at all. But this is something I'll revisit in more detail on my free time. But Commander, well, we have General, and that's basically what this is here.
Yep.
Let's see.
I think some of the effects are the same too.
Bishop's Edict. Either all
Flip to the
MP
general
costs are
here.
double, or all sources deal extra damage. I feel like Bishop's Edict would be is honestly two number go up for my liking. Let's see, charging cavalry, we already have that in general. Crushing chariot is another one of those follow-ups. King's Castle. King's Castle and Bishop Edict feels like these all-encompassing control effects. I don't know if that quite fits the fantasy.
Not in this case.
No. Dancer. Well, we have Entertainer. So let's see. And none of the dancer skills are really something all that unique.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Again, they're just stages and routines.
when it comes to the dances themselves, these ones I'll revisit to see if there's any new. Because I think this is something that would fit more routines, especially since so many are either until your next turn or instant. I think this is something that would lean more. Dances leans more towards additional routines. So let's see. Symbolist.
It's just a pictomancer.
Yeah.
And we don't really have an equivalent for this.
Let's see. Let's see. Although some of the effects we might be able to use. Let's see, magic symbols. I think this one we can use that can have some fun effects. This would be a feat, and it would be a spellcasting feat.
Yep.
Because if an ally bears one of your symbols, that ally can perform the spell action and destroy the symbol to cast a single spell among those you know, as long as it has a total mind point cost equal to or lower than skill level times 10. The ally must still pay the MP cost. I know this sounds like something that would just be an ability of Mimic, but this is actually the opposite of how Mimic would work.
Destroy the symbol, yeah. Definitely worth exploring.
I'm thinking you can apply a condition to a magic symbol condition to one ally.
Mm-hmm.
And the approach I think I'm gonna go with is the duration is 1d4.
Okay. Not gonna tie it to like MCM or anything.
No, because I'm gonna be do. Actually, no. Let's tie it to MCM.
Okay.
I have a different idea. As long as all right, I got it. So, as an action, you may apply the magic symbol condition to one ally with a duration equal to your MCM. That ally may remove the condition to cast one spell from a spell list you know, with a maximum rank equal to your highest unlocked circle.
I like it.
This means that it's from a spell list you know, so it doesn't have to be a spell that you have equipped.
Mm-hmm.
Which means it's not going to be as bottlenecked.
Like if you have Scholar, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're more open than you realize.
Yeah, it also means that the actually, instead of removing the condition, I'm just going to have it that so long as they have the condition, they can use the effect.
Okay.
Because if they're removing it, it'd be a case of what's stopping them from just using the effect immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But if they still have it, they can keep casting, or once again, Spirit Master fuckery, pass it, play hot potato with the symbol.
I'm never going to live that down.
Nope. So, let's see. Mirage, that's just ritualism, personal touch. Um, I think let's see, personal touch has it that someone bearing one of your symbols suffers damage or recovers HP. It can increase the damage or increase the recovery. Uh, I'm think. I think I will have. I think for that, I'll have that be magic symbol 2.
Oh, so you're tiering it.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And so when an ally has the magic symbol condition, so when an ally has the magic symbol condition, they gain a bonus to HP recovery and a penalty to um, damage inflicted on them equal to your MCM. I'd say that'll work. Let's see, symbolic connection. No need for that. And symbolism is how they get their spells.
Yep.
And if I'm being honest, I don't see a reason to use any of the symbol spells.
Nope.
A lot of they're mostly support effects. And when it comes to the heroic skills, I maintain what I said before. A lot of them just the juice ain't worth the squeeze. When it comes to the custom weapons, that I think I can do on my own because we already have a feature that is tailor built for that. So let's look at let me open up natural fantasy. I think this was the one I spent the least amount of time on.
Oh boy.
So let's see. Talk about materials. We already have our own crafting system, so no need for that. Let's see. Oh yeah, they have a custom weapon thing. How cute. Let's see. When it comes to camp activities, I think some of this we already have covered with some of the affiliation abilities you can get. So let's look at the classes in natural fantasy. Starting with the floralist.
What in the actual fuck?
You know, this is all about planting magic seeds to do effects. With it relying on a growth clock.
Okay, I get that, but what's with the vitiligo?
I have no idea.
And it's just the first thing that I notice of like, okay, that's very off-putting.
Mhm.
And the type of magic they gain is chloromancy.
Mm-hmm. But because it's about I think this is another one of those ones I'd have to revisit. The only way I could see myself doing
And
it.
there is way too much to this. This is very dense.
So I think the now, I think the approach that I would probably do um honestly would pro I think Floralist is the only one here that has to be a job.
Mm-hmm.
As far as what type of job, um, independent.
Yeah. I was about to say, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this does not fit any of the main four.
Yep. So, gourmet. We already have a cooking ability in how we handle item synthesis. I know that somebody tried to make a culinarian class, not class,
Yep.
job in the system, but part of it was giving it art of creation as a bonus feat, which is something I'm not keen on, if I'm being honest.
No.
So let's see.
Still, having a battle shift, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, based on the approach we have with it, I would say I'd honestly say that everything that the gourmet does is handled by the culinary art of creation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, which let me look at that to see if there's any Bra I know there's a few branching off feats. Yeah, there's Elemental Fusion and Trophy Hunter, which are an equipment and environment feat, respectively. But those are more about getting more out of essences. Uh, when it comes to art, when it comes to um, art of cuisine, yeah, a lot of it would be on that. And if I'm being honest, the ingredients and delicacy setup that we have here, that we have for gourmet, is a bit random for my liking.
Mhm.
See, then we have Invoker, which has Tira's ring blade, but I feel like Invoker is very much trying to be Monk.
Mhm.
Uh,
Here's ring blade mixed with a little bit of bloody roar.
mm-hmm. I know at least one of our friends would look at that and say, wood. Uh,
More power to him, I guess.
I can't blame someone for shooting their shot.
No,
But,
I certainly can't either.
let's see, Elemental Harmony. That's just beast speech. Invocation. Actually, Invoker. I'd say this is the equivalent of Geomancer.
Mhm.
And oh yeah, definitely the case when it comes to Wellsprings and Invocations. And with the way it's set up, this is pretty much our Geomancer. I don't really need to add anything. Let's see, with the merchant, well, we have a merchant.
I do dig the wheelchair in a way, though.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, well, wait, this is natural fantasy. Why the fuck would it be a steam wheelchair?
I guess because Rooster couldn't be consistent when it comes to genres. I had said that delineating between subgenres is almost a misunderstanding of the source material.
Mhm.
You remember that Gestalt fantasy thing that I wrote in Ultimania?
Yep.
That's what comes to mind here. But
Yeah, because it feels disjointed. I mean, the only thing I see working in natural fantasy, whatever the hell that is the floralist.
mm-mm. But let's see.
And the evoker. The evoker's like, okay, yeah, I can sort of see that.
Mm-mm.
But the merchant and the gourmet feel vastly out of place.
Mm-mm. But incidentally, what they can.
They could throw away old shit.
Mm-hmm. Although I will note one. I think the idea with um like the main references that they cite for natural fantasy, and I remember Zen and I having some issues with this. The Atelier Dusk trilogy, Aisha, Eska and Logi, and Shali. The Monster Hunter Stories games, Jade Cocoon, and Etrian Odyssey Untold: The Millennium Girl.
Okay, Jade Cocoon I can see, but Not really much of anything else.
Mhm.
What?
Um, if it's supposed to be about a heavy emphasis on nature, again, trying to divide it into three styles of fantasy, think I think it was a case of missing the point.
They could have just as easily tied this into the core book, except make it more like frickin' Tenchi Muyo with the frickin' Jiraiyan Society being based off trees and technology.
Mm-mm. But then there's techno fantasy. Let me load that up.
Oh
Techno
god.
fantasy. When I heard the name techno fantasy, I've mentioned this before, but I don't think it's unreasonable that I figured it would be something akin to some of these sci-fi fantasy works. You know, stuff like Fantasy Star or Star Ocean.
Yeah.
No, it's fucking cyberpunk. Although what it considers cyberpunk for in regards to its main references, it is cyberpunk in the way of everybody who thinks cyberpunk begins and ends in the 1980s with that whole um late stage corporate dystopia. And the references they list are Final Fantasy VII, which no,
Doesn't even apply.
nope. um, Xenogears,
I don't know enough about that to make a judgment call.
no, Xenosaga,
Definitely not.
mm-mm, and the Soul Hackers games, which are more. Soul Hackers was more about taking the SMT formula and applying a kind of detective fiction approach.
Mm-hmm. Which I thought was kind of cool.
Mm-mm. Also, Arc Knights, which you know what? I can't go into that, at least not while I'm on stream.
Unfortunately, we do not have that kind of time tonight.
It's also the fact that I'm a man of my word.
Right.
So I will note this: the Technospheres thing is an attempt to do materia, but this is still that gem problem I mentioned before. This is a lot of the previous Final Fantasy TTRPGs that I covered. When they did a materia system, it was an add-on and not an alternate. And when I think people are asking for materia in their TTRPG, I don't think an add-on is what they're asking for.
No, definitely not.
It's the equivalent of the gem socket system that's been in Diablo since 2.
Yeah.
Or since we've brought up Ragnarok, the card system. And again, I do not think that's what people are asking for.
No,
But
definitely not.
there are three classes that are added in Techno Fantasy, so we can look at those. The first being the Esper.
Or Dime Star Gendo right here.
But let's see. I remember this being one of the first challenges that I did for the monthly design challenges.
Mhm.
Although I didn't call it Esper, I called it the keyword was psychic. So cognitive focus, I feel like that has way too many caveats. Uh, let's see, hypercognition.
Why would you refer to another book if your focus is... What the fuck?
Let's see. Navigator, don't have... That's... not going to be doing that. Psychic gifts, I'll get to that in a second. Psychokinesis is just a attribute substitute. And being able to target flying creatures, we already have that covered.
Our skill is cooler.
Yep. So, when it comes to gifts, let's see, they can only be used when certain events take place. And hello there, Sam.
Hi there. We're going insane, or at least I am.
Also, it looks like looks like we had a bit of a bot earlier. It's been dealt with. But how are you doing, Sam? Hope you're doing well tonight. We are doing good. Just going through converting Fabula Ultima into my system and slowly going insane over certain things that don't quite make sense.
Like, I'm sorry, I can't get over the hypercognition, which refers to the High Fantasy Atlas.
Mm-mm. The Techno Fantasy Atlas came out last, and I think the whole I think that was to deal with the question of, well, what if you have verses and take hypercognition? But the idea of the brainwave clock, which is just doing this context-sensitive version of your psychic abilities. I think there is something to this, but I'd probably use an inverse of the usage die. Though it does beg the question, what let's see, what happens if it begins each scene empty. So the brainwave clock is essentially a heat mechanic. I think I have a way to use this, but this is going to be another independent job, so... Though, I think things like cognitive focus, which is a marked target effect, I'm not quite sure about that. I mean, there's a bit of number go up, but that's about it. But then when it comes to mutant, we kind of have an equivalent with Nightmare.
Yep.
Let's see. Archmorphosis, we definitely have that with Nightmare. Biophagy. That's just an HP. That's just HP recovery. Ecdysis. This I think can be used.
It's an odd form of Soul Eater, but how would it be used?
So what I'm thinking is that you can is that when you take damage, as long as the damage type is not physical, you can get either 1, 2, or 3 damage reduction. The higher amount of damage reduction you take, the higher HP reduction die you roll. And I actually think this effect should be a combat feat tied to Dark Knight. Actually, no, we've already done enough with Dark Knight. This is getting tied to Nightmare.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say a combat feat rather than a job feature itself.
I wouldn't be able to fit. I think it'd be better served as a combat feat, just one that that you can't take if you don't have Nightmare.
Okay, I can go with that. So is this going to be basic combat?
Yep.
Yeah, I figured.
You may grant yourself. So I'd say damage reduction 1 through 4.
Hmm.
Uh, so you'd get damage reduction 1 through 4. When you do, roll a die based on the amount of damage reduction. So So 6, 8, 10, and 12 respectively. So you can't get it from multiple sources, i.e. if used again, it replaces the current damage reduction. Uh, and it says looks like you're a mutant. I'm not. I'm showing green bars all the way around. Because never mind. Yep.
Oh God, did it die?
No.
Oh,
So,
okay.
let's see. Genoclepsis is about therioforms. Theromorphosis. When it comes to the forms, I think a lot of this is covered, but it has an equivalent coverage with how we handle nightmare forms.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So then we have Pilot. Let's see.
Why does it have a cyber sword and a cyber shield?
Good question.
I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong, but I don't look at that and see Pilot. Maybe if the pilot was like in a mech suit.
We already have that. Yeah, looking at Pilot, a lot of what I'm seeing here is accomplished by Magitech Knight. Magitech Knight or Chocobo Knight, depending on what sort of personal vehicle you have. Although I certainly wouldn't treat it as its own HP setup. And the rest of it, well, we have that with mecha creation.
Yeah.
But yeah, that pretty much covers the. There's some other stuff that we could have covered, like some of the bonus. Actually, you know what? We may as well. Let's see. Let's look at Ace of Cards, which is going to be in the bonus content folder.
Okay. I'll pull that up. Give me a moment. Come on, Brave, get out of here. Okay, let me look into the thingy here.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the skills, I'd say a lot of these skills are going to be under Gambler, especially something like Double or Nothing, which I already have.
A Deckmancer, really? A Destiny do? Oh, for the love of God!
Yep.
It's like that one season of Yu-Gi-Oh that I didn't watch.
So let's see.
Yeah, because it looks like a lot of the effects for some of the card sets are just blackjack and reels.
So when it comes to the deck that it has, I'm trying to figure out if it's something that we could use, but looking at it, I don't really see it.
Or 7/7 hit points and 7/7 mind points.
if you've got 4 cards of the same value. Um, I thought there might be something I could use, but not really. I take that back.
Yeah, because it looks like some of them are pairs and straights.
Mm-hmm. And we kind of have. I can see why you said we kind of have that already with reels.
Mhm.
Oh.
Your deck is an actual deck of cards that you can assemble however you prefer. Their backs are identical and you follow the instructions below, because nobody's going to cheat in this ever. The deck contains 30 cards. I'm already pissed off. 2 jokers plus 28 cards divided into 4 types. For each suit, the deck contains cards with values 1 to 7.
Yeah, and as tempting as it would be to look at some of the homebrew ones, nah.
I was about to say, no, my head's already spinning from all this.
Mm-hmm. Uh, some of it is clearly more strongly designed than others. But I think we've got a decent amount of material out of this. Certainly
Yeah,
a
we
lot.
did.
Certainly a lot more than I would have predicted otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's where I will wrap it up on this one. This was certainly a lengthier one than I had anticipated it was going to be. So,
Got some good notes out of it.
oh yeah. Got a set of notes that I'll probably revisit over the course of the week just on my off time. I do intend on writing the world books eventually. It's just that the bigger focus has been overseeing the wiki, which I'm eternally grateful to good sister Tabby for handling that. That being said, we'll be doing something similar to this on Friday. I was going to start Soar on Friday, but I didn't want to kick the talk of FF10 and 10.2 down 2 more weeks. So we'll be doing that on Friday.
Woo!
So keep an eye out for that. It is going to be at the usual time that we would do Valley of the Judged on Friday. We're just going to be covering Final Fantasy X and 10.2 during that time.
Ooh, it's gonna be fun.
Much like what happened with 7 and 8, I will not be using the sphere grid for when we do characters. For the same reasons I didn't use Paramagic Injunction with 8 or Materia with 7. Those particular systems go in far too many directions for the purposes of what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not doing it. But that doesn't mean that that we're going to be sitting on our hands or something like that. And of course, I will be doing an interview on Motive Night tomorrow, and Thursday should be more of Oka Hoshin for the Valley of the Judged. We are getting by Thursday we will be done with the core book. We're going to be focusing on the expansion book for about a week, and then wrap up Oka Hoshin. But 1 week from Friday is when we'll start with Soar, also known as Shirtless on a Rooftop. And of course, on Friday this week, as mentioned before, we'll be looking at FF10 and 10.2 and how one might adapt them into this system through our Fated Continuum series.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
See you on the trail.